Hello to all my KidZone kids. Kedge here. I'm excited to connect with you again this week as we begin a new lesson series on humility. We start off the month in Matthew 26, verses 36 through 56. Jesus had been with his disciples at a special Passover meal where he demonstrated service and humility as he washed the disciples' feet. And afterwards, Jesus leads them to the garden to watch and pray. In this story, in this lesson, Jesus gives us an important lesson in humility as he prays to his Father. Not my will, but your will. Jesus was soon arrested and put on trial to humbly face the darkest moments of his life. And this is where things just seem odd to me. The choices that Jesus made, I'm not sure that I would have made those same choices. I know without a doubt that frustration, anger would have taken over. It would have consumed me. It would have turned my world upside down. And when things are upside down, man, things seem confusing. Things seem difficult. We seem lost and not knowing what to do. A lot of times things don't go our way, but we can lean on Jesus' example as we look at this story. Things didn't go the way that Jesus would have actually wanted them to go, but what he chose to do was to lean on his Father. And when he does that, things work out exactly as God had planned.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how he created us and loves us so much that he made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. And now for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Matthew. Chapter 26, verses 36 through 56.
For months, the Jewish religious leaders had been plotting to silence Jesus.
He called us pretenders, snakes!
On the Sunday before Passover, Jesus entered Jerusalem to great cheers from the crowds.
Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord!
But even as the crowds swarmed in to see what Jesus would do and say, one of Jesus' closest followers, Judas, went to the religious leaders with a very sneaky plan.
What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?
How about a cool 30 pieces of silver?
Jesus knew these plans, but he also knew that his mission was to face those who hated him and let them take him without defending himself. He prepared his closest friends for this during a Passover meal, and then afterwards led them out of the city toward the Mount of Olives. Judas had already left them.
In a little while, you will no longer see me. Then after a little while, you will see me. I came from the Father and entered the world. Now I am leaving the world and going back to the Father.
The air cooled as the evening darkened.
This very night, you will all turn away because of me.
Peter, the most outspoken of Jesus' friends, quickened his step and tightened his hand on the sword he was carrying.
All the others may turn away because of you, but I never will.
What I'm about to tell you is true. It will happen tonight. Before the rooster crows, you will say 3 times that you don't know me.
I may have to die with you, but I will never say I don't know you.
Me too. Same.
By the time Jesus and his friends reached the Garden of Gethsemane, they were exhausted.
Sit here while I go over there and pray.
As the other disciples settled in on the cold, rough ground, Jesus took Peter, James, and John along with him to a grove of ancient olive trees. The weight of what was coming pressed down on him.
My soul is very sad. I feel close to death. Stay here. Keep watch with me.
We're here for you.
We got this. Prayers.
The 3 friends found seats among the knotted tree roots, and Jesus went on a little further. Then suddenly, he fell down on the ground, face first into the dirt. Words poured out from deep inside.
My Father, if it is possible, take this cup of suffering away from me. But let what you want be done. not what I want.
After a short time, Jesus returned to his friends. They had all fallen into restless sleep. Jesus touched Peter's arm.
What? Huh? We're just praying.
Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? Watch and pray. Then you won't fall into sin when you are tempted. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak.
We'll stay awake this time. Got you covered.
Again, Jesus threw himself down to pray. His pain was so deep, blood and sweat beaded on his forehead.
My Father, is it possible for this cup to be taken away? But if I must drink it, may what you want be done.
Jesus returned to his friends once more, to find them still sleeping. The agony in his spirit forced Jesus to lay his heart out to God once more. He prayed the desperate words again, begging God to take away what was coming, and at the same time, revealing his complete trust in God's plan.
Let what you want be done, not what I want.
At last, Jesus knew the time had come. He returned to find Peter, James, and John buried deep in sleep. Beyond them, his other followers slept too.
Are you still sleeping and resting?
The disciples struggled through a fog of sleep, blinking and yawning. Below them, torchlight showed an angry mob climbing up the hill. The men were waving swords and clubs, shouting as they came.
Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is about to be handed over to sinners. Get up, let us go. Here comes the one who is handing me over to them.
Jesus' friends staggered to their feet, and Peter clutched his sword. As the mob marched closer, they could see the man in front of the mob. It was their friend Judas.
Judas? What are you doing?
The mob had been sent by the Jewish religious leaders. Judas had already explained to them that he would greet Jesus with a kiss, so they would know exactly which man to arrest.
Greetings, teacher.
Judas ignored the other disciples and went directly to Jesus, kissing him on the cheek in greeting. Jesus drew back and looked Judas directly in the face.
Friend, do what you came to do.
The mob surged forward as the disciples just stood there, frozen and confused. As men grabbed Jesus, Peter suddenly sprang to life, awkwardly drawing his sword.
Should we use our swords?
Peter didn't wait for an answer, but he struck out wildly. His blade sliced right through the ear of the high priest's servant.
Oh! Stop this!
Jesus touched the servant's ear. Immediately, he was healed.
Put your sword back in its place. Do you think I can't ask my Father for help? He would send an army of more than 70,000 angels right away. But then how would the scriptures come true? They say it must happen in this way.
Jesus turned back to the mob and the men who held him. They hovered there, uncertain, in the flickering light of their torches.
Am I leading a band of armed men against you? Do you have to come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courtyard teaching, and you didn't arrest me. But all this has happened so that the words of the prophets would come true.
No one could respond to Jesus. Instead, they arrested him and led him away. And his friends who said they'd be with him through anything ran away. Jesus made the choice that would bring life to everyone, but that would cost him everything.
As we look at the story this week, again, we see another great example that Jesus has set for us. Jesus decided to put others first. He decided to lean on God in prayer, even though Jesus wasn't sure that's what he wanted to happen. He knew that God knew better. So Jesus choosing to put others first is the perfect example for us. When we do that, when we think of others, when we show humility by putting others first, that gives us an opportunity to show them what the love of God looks like. That gives us an opportunity to point others to Jesus. Boys and girls, I've really enjoyed talking with you this week as we looked through Scripture and we looked at examples that Jesus set for us. And it's always wonderful to know that there are answers out there for us. And it's right there in Scripture for us to be able to grow and learn and to be able to give others the opportunity to know more about Jesus. I hope you all have a great week. I miss you guys, and we hope to see you soon. Now, how in the world do I get down from here? Okay, boys and girls, it's time for this week's challenge. This week, I want to encourage each and every one of you to get a head start on our lesson for next week. We will be looking at Jesus, crucified and risen. And you can find this in John, beginning in chapter 18, verse 12, and going through chapter 20, verse 23. Good luck. Hope you all have a great week.